Who's paying Peter Daou to smear Sanders and the left? Now, my question would be, why would Marianne Williamson select a campaign manager who had a history of a headline like this? That it just doesn't make any sense if your point, or if your whole goal is to gain the people who followed Bernie Sanders. All right, so let's read a little bit of this article. Who's paying Peter Daou to smear Bernie Sanders and the left? Peter Daou advised several failed campaigns directing their online outreach and rapid response. Daou also works as a paid consultant for many corporations and establishment organizations. You guessed it, Daou, of course, also worked for the Clinton Global Initiative. Considering how busy the life of such a high-profile consultant must be, it is very interesting to see how much time Daou actually spends tweeting about Bernie Sanders, the so-called Bernie Bro, and about the anti-Hillary left, which I am a part of. That's not part of the article. That's me speaking. During a period of 7 days alone, Daou tweeted 29 times about Sanders, each tweet highly negative of the senator. Why would Marianne Williamson pick somebody like this when the very people he is smearing and talking about and going after are the very people she now needs to be a part of her, to support her campaign? I'm talking about strategically. Why would she make that decision? There has to be an answer that I don't know what that answer is, but there's an answer. There has to be an answer to that. There's something more valuable to her than the backlash of announcing Peter Daou as her campaigning manager. There's something more valuable than receiving the backlash. And we need to figure out, or maybe that shoe will drop soon, or maybe we'll find out somehow. But here's a tweet: warning to dim leaders, until you confront the toxic, destructive influence on the party that is Bernie Sanders, you will keep losing. And then that's him quote tweeting himself. Gut check. There is no split in the Democratic Party. There's Bernie Sanders and his rage-filled, self-righteous diehards attacking Dems. I need y'all to make this make sense, man. I need some sense made of this, because this doesn't make any sense. RFK has been coming up though a lot in our comments, and he's here now in these comments. But let's continue with the article, and here's another tweet: spare me the purity test, purity of people who excuse Bernie voting for the NRA after they spent money to elect him, but slamming Dems for corporate money. I read that one. Now let's continue. During the same week, Daou tweeted less about actual presidential shit, Donald Trump, only 20 times. However, if you take a closer look at Daou's Trump tweets, it is clear that Daou doesn't spend much of his time criticizing Trump, but actually mentioning the orange president of the United States in order to continue with his attacks on Bernie. Challenge to the anti-Clinton, anti-Harris, anti-Booker left: would you accept corporate money if it helped defeat Trump? Yes or no? Like I said, I didn't know any of this of this clown. I didn't know any of this stuff that he did. I'm learning this while researching this subject. Like I said, I've known him only as the reformed person. So I came in knowing him as the reformed person. Like this tweet, man, it's pretty disgusting. I don't know if a person can rebrand himself from all of this. This is a lot of intricate thinking about it through these tweets. That's the problem with tweets. Now, if he just said a bunch of bad things in articles, that's less problematic to me than tweets, because there can be multiple threads. And tweets, people generally feel more comfortable with expression, a little bit more of emotion. Let's continue. If you're devoting a minute of your time to attacking Dems like Kamala Harris and Cory Booker in the Trump era, you're not progressive. So being a progressive have nothing to do with ideology whatsoever to Peter, and actually largely the professional managerial class too. So it's not just Peter that can apply to. Let's continue. Furthermore, Daou spent a lot of his Twitter time during this period to criticize the left, usually by claiming that the left is attacking the Democrats and that those attacks are gratuitous, full of rage and hate, and that the leftists are trolls and bots who are making virulent and threatening comments. As with his attacks on Sanders, Daou usually assumes a defensive position. Quote, I am defending Hillary Kamala from the anti-Hillary, anti-Kamala left, for example. Or, quote, I am defending the Democrats from the leftist bots using GOP talking points. Even though he never provides any evidence for those leftist attacks, his audience also never sees who these leftist bots and Bernie bros really are. Daou's followers almost never see what the actual attack was. Furthermore, Daou uses the pretense of defending someone to actually proactively smear the left. Yeah, I'm defending him, and here's the smear. This fucking guy. Is it me, or is there a new influx of troll bots and haters on the left? It seems someone has an interest in knocking down 2020 contenders. Now, if he never came out as a campaign manager for Marianne Williamson, I wouldn't be able to call him a piece of shit right now. But this whole reform branding is over with him accepting this position. So the whole the branding was fake. It was bullshit. Marianne Williamson is not a Bernie Sanders leftist, so stop acting like she is. She didn't even initially even support him. She didn't even follow Medicare for All, and it's my opinion. She's only changed her opinion on Medicare for All because she's trying to get the Bernie Sanders left, and she knows that's the number one topic. So I don't think her change is even authentic. Interesting point. Electric brother, the sudden spike in trolling from the left and right coincides with the grand jury revelation. You see, he's trying to tie Russiagate. This guy is nothing but slime. And it's fine for a person who is slime to reform themselves and we accept them back, but they can't, you know, be put in any sort of positions of leadership, and they have to be watched to make sure their actions match up. Daou's commitment to attacking Bernie Sanders must require a lot of his valuable consultant time and definitely goes beyond simply not agreeing with a certain politician. So are we to believe Daou is doing this because he seriously opposes the policy proposed by Bernie Sanders? If that is true, would we see him some effort in Daou's tweets to actually engage on specific points of those policy proposals or even Bernie Sanders' views? But no, Daou is not expressing his opposition to Medicare for All. He's not arguing how raising the minimum wage is wrong or how we should not invest in improving our infrastructure or in green energy. He just simply going at people. There's no fanfare here as Marianne Williamson's campaign manager, unless I'm missing a tweet, which I don't, because a lot of the reaction is what? Let's read. as Marianne Williamson's campaign manager, I'm curious to know how many polls will be released that ignore her declared candidacy. And actually, and this point is made, and this is the poll, by the way. Let me tell you, it's Dem presidential polling. One, this is 368 people. This is not even a lot of people. So it's quite possible with only 368 people, and she would clearly, because these people have more name recognition than her. If claim Amy Klobuchar, if these people are polling this low, she's quite possibly polling at 1% in this poll, if not lower. So it doesn't register. But the problem for Marianne Williamson, the more people in the poll, the worse she'll do. So when it was her and Joe Biden, her best poll showed her at 10%, and that's if you give her the 7% that says they'll probably vote for her. So it's a gift. It's not really 10%, but it's a gift. So let's say it's 10%. When we added RFK Jr., the poll that we showed, and we covered this in another segment, RFK Jr. gets 10%, she gets 4%. You see? Now it's 3 people, she drops to 4%. You add 4 people, she'll drop even more, 5. So this poll has what's that, 8 or 9 people. So of course, she's barely going to register, or she's going to register very low. But because her name doesn't, do you want them to put her in the poll so it can say 1%? You know what I'm saying? Do y'all who support her, do you want that to happen? Do you want the poll to show Marianne Williamson at 0.2%? Be careful what you wish for, because they could put her in these polls, and I'm assuming they aren't putting her in the polls, but they could be putting her in this polls, and then she's polling even less. So be careful what you ask for. Let's go here. All right, now I'm gonna go back. All right. So now let's go from here. Now what I want to see is how many comments. Because when I looked at this yesterday, the comments were at 350 something for this. Now it's at 659. It's more than twice. And it's my belief that most of these are not good. Because we've retweeted probably 50 of them over a couple of days, and it's not good. So let's dive into some of the comments, so you can see some of the reaction here. I'm not sure who's making the decisions for this campaign, the Marianne Williamson campaign. But let's continue. He says, while every other potential candidate fell in line waiting for Biden to decide who gets to run, Marianne Williamson declared her candidacy. And this understanding, or this phrasing of being some sort of heroic person for running for president or an elected office, I am not of that understanding at all. I wouldn't. It seems out of context to have any sort of adjectives that describe a person running for office as being brave, or any of those adjectives. To me, seems weird to me. So I joined her campaign because I've known her for years and deeply appreciate her lifelong dedication to helping people. Those who follow my writings know I oppose the oppressive and corrupt establishment. No, we don't. I feel strongly that Marianne Williamson is our best opportunity to challenge that entrenched system. You are lying. Well, actually, yeah, maybe he's not. There's a way you can read that. But anyway, let's continue. Also, it's great to be working with my good friend, and this is Jason Call, who is Marianne's deputy manager, campaign manager. So he's second in command, Jason. We fully intend to do our part challenging the status quo of the Democratic Party. This is like reading these lines is like laughable, but I'm just gonna read what the tweet says. But it's really laughable what he's saying here. I joined the campaign this week, so I welcome all feedback, positive, negative. This is him knowing that this is going to be negative. With an open mind and heart. Each of you matter. They know that this announcement is not going to be good. This is why he laid this out like this. As campaign, you would go, I went proud to be, blah, blah, blah. And that's not what happened. He saw all the terrible comments. Like, pretty bad. I only read a few. And this is what he says. How I feel. Here's how I plan to respond to criticism. With love. Now, I must say, he hadn't put this out until RBN on their Twitter account, and I sent this to the RBN members. I was like, wow, he just tweeted this, and it happened to coincide with us just now tweeting out like 30 other replies of the bad replies. Then he made this tweet. So let's read how I feel. Here's how I plan to respond to criticism with love, humility, and compassion. That means he's not. If you vehemently disagree with what I say or do or say, I'll listen and try to learn from you. If you slam and attack me, I'll assume your frustration is valid and genuine in solidarity. So this is him basically not saying, I'm not going to use the tactic of Hillary Clinton and going after people. I'm just going to not respond because I tried to rebrand myself and I can't do that because that's totally going to expose me as the fraud that I am. And then he has the audacity to put solidarity. And somebody said something and he unblocked people. He did unblock, and we heard Ron Clone say that in that stream that we watched. So it's a lot. Now, if you leave with anything from this segment, leave with this question. Why would Marianne Williamson select Peter Daou, the most hated Bernie smear merchant, the most hated and most recent Bernie smear merchant? It just does not, to me, make sense. So we have to sniff out the reason for that, not by the reasons they're telling us, because it's not the real reason. We have to sniff out the reason based on their actions, and we'll see. I hope we got a better understanding for those who had no idea who Peter Daou was. I tried to give you a slight little bit of brief history of his background on why it was so on why people were so adversarial to him, part of the Bernie coalition. Then I talked about how he supposedly made a shift, and now he's back on board at the insane asylum, or back on the dark side with Marianne Williamson.